Hi, I'm Ken Lammers. Welcome to Minor League Matters. And today we're going to talk about the way soccer teams are currently naming themselves in the United States. And with that, let's get cracking. Okay, so in the United States, soccer is a growing sport, right? When I was a kid, soccer was something that got played overseas in Europe and all that. And, to be honest with you, as I grew up, it grew more as a female sport than it did a male sport. And then, eventually it has shifted over to the point that males play and, have grown the sport. It's not just about the U.S. female Olympic team. It's not just about my college's female soccer team. The male side of it has grown now too. So what we've got in the United States is a growing league in MLS, right? It's growing. It's going to continue to grow. It's going to try to get in all sorts of cities, anything that's got a decent size, right? Behind it is the NASL, which is, we'll see if that survives much longer. And then there's USL, which is growing in leaps and bounds too, but as a minor league kind of to the MLS. So what happens in the U.S. when soccer teams need to make themselves a name, right? Used to be, in a more American tradition, you would get teams that would sit down and come up with real names, right? Now, sometimes these names were stupid. For instance, Real Salt Lake. I don't believe that the Spanish royal family has in any way given its imprimatur to Real Salt Lake. And as a matter of fact, kind of some of my buddies that I've known over time have refused to call it Real Salt Lake. They just call it Real because it isn't Real, right? So you get some of that stuff, right? Kind of Europhilic. But you also got things where teams really put in and got names, right? What names do you remember from the MLS? Well, the Galaxy, the Red Bulls, the Crew, although they've really screwed that all up. You remember these because they were unique. They were strong brands. They were something that, you didn't talk about, LA yesterday did. You talked about the Galaxy did, right? Or Columbus yesterday was doing this and that. It was the Crew, right? Or the Revolution in New England, that sort of thing. These teams are out there and making names for themselves, and the names stick in your head. It's good brand identity. It's a good way to set up your team. However, there is a strong current in U.S. soccer fans and U.S. soccer people running it who are very Europhilic, right? Which is understandable. It is a European first sport that's coming here and trying to make its way in. And every attempt so far to make it Americanized in any way has really kind of fallen flat in its face. Attempts in older leagues to do things like change the clock from counting up to 45 and then adding time at the end to counting down to 0 and then maybe making breaks, getting to actual 0 being the end of the game, end of the match. While that makes more sense than the European system, it's not going to happen because the European system has established it. Every sport has stupid rules that are going to carry with it that you're not going to change if you come along and say, well, we're the new guys in the sport. We're going to change this rule because it'll make it so much better. Yes, it will make it better. I'm sure that there are 10 things that the people running MLS and USL and NASL and all this can look at and go, this needs to be different, this needs to be different, that needs to be different. And ain't none of them going to change because it's already set up that way. And you're not going to change it as the upstart. Okay, having said that, the Europhilic kind of obsession in some soccer fans is really kind of interesting. And it comes in, and you see it in the naming conventions that have developed. Rather than trying to develop individual identities, strong individual identities that can be, to the Timbers, right, or something like that, Portland. Giving your team an identity rather than just saying, "Well, we're the Louisville Soccer Club," and that's it. That's all Louisville's did. Louisville FC. That's another thing. They fight between this SCFC. In the United States, it's soccer. You are an SC. If you call yourself a football club, you are not following. Yeah, you can do it. What the heck? I mean, it's dumb, but you can do it. You're not building yourself in with the American crowd. You're creating barriers by calling it FC. But go ahead. The naming conventions that seem to have developed over time, right, are either A, steal the name from some European team, or B, don't name it at all. Louisville in the USL has no name, right? It's just Louisville, right? What good is that? What does that do? It's Louisville. Okay, so what if another Louisville team pops up? Yeah, right. Now, Louisville's not likely to be a city big enough to have another team pop up, right? Okay, let's talk about New York City. New York City has the Red Bulls, an established, strong identity. They've had, in the NASL, they've got the Cosmos, which is an established identity from past days, right? In older Tier 1 leagues, the Cosmos were a thing. That's the team that Pele came and played for, if any of you are old enough to remember that, right? And I'm so surprised that the MLS had somehow snatched that out of the NASL. I don't know how it still remains in the NASL, but it is probably their gem. What do they do when they put a new team in? New York City FC. What is that? How does that distinguish itself from the already established teams? Red Bulls, Cosmos, New York City FC. Well, both of those are New York City FCs. They're football clubs, if you want to call them that. They're both there. Why don't you give your team a name? Something that establishes it and sets it apart, right? Okay. Now, we've also got things going on like when they do give names, where they just give generic names that are taken out of some European thing, right? I've already talked about Real Salt Lake, right? Real Salt Lake, just grab that name, Real, because, right? Sporting Kansas City, which I think had a different name previously, but is now Sporting Kansas City. And United. Good God. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I know that the only United anybody in the United States knew before a certain time back was Manchester United, right? Manchester United, big British, I don't know, I don't follow their sports very much, but it's a big name, right? People love it, lots of people hate it, and everybody knows it. So over here in the U.S., again, taking a name from across the seas, DC United, right? When they made their soccer team, they made it DC United. Now that works, right? On a variety of levels. Yeah, it's taking a name from somebody else, but it's also has implications having to do with DC. The United States, united we stand, divided we fall, e pluribus unum, that sort of thing. That's all there. That's DC, and that makes sense. DC United as a name makes sense. What does not make sense is what we've seen with the two new teams. One is Atlanta United FC. Every bad naming convention they could do. They didn't do SC, they did FC, they did United, right? And then on top of it, they chose god awful ugly colors. Dirt brown, which I'm sure is supposed to be gold, but dirt brown on a dark maroon, right? Neither of those colors pop on any of the stuff I've seen on their online that they're selling. It does appear that on their actual jersey, they're going to have a bright gold A rather than a dirt brown A on top of maroon. But it's a bad logo. It's a bad name. Hopefully the team will survive, but it'll survive in spite of this, not because of this. It's not a multiplier for them. It is harmful to them, right? Okay, that's Atlanta. Then up in Minnesota, it's Minnesota United FC, I think, but United, okay? Again, United. Why? I don't know. Now, they've got a pretty cool logo. Now, they did go and make a pretty good logo. It's kind of like a bird and a shield and all that. It's good. And so that works out pretty well. It's kind of a wash for them, right? But the United is just dumb. Choose a name. Choose some sort of name, right? I don't know why they're choosing United. And I've looked in the past to see what United exactly is supposed to stand for. And depending on where you look on the internet, you get 20 different answers, including the first answer that I ever ran into was one that, United were the teams that let Catholics and Protestants play on the same, let Catholics play on the teams with the Protestants, right? I'm pretty sure that's bogus. But it was the first explanation I was ever told. I've looked online for other explanations, and basically what you get from people who seem to know what they're saying is nobody knows. It's just a name that developed. I think that maybe these teams think that when they call themselves United, they're talking about, well, we've got the whole city, right? Which may work for Minnesota because Minnesota is up, I guess Minneapolis area, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and they're probably only going to be the one team there, right? Atlanta, I don't know if that works. Atlanta's a pretty big city, and if, soccer grows, as I think it will over the next couple decades, Atlanta might be the site of two teams. So then what do you got? You got the whole New York situation again, maybe, with two teams with weak names, and okay, that's kind of my rant. I just wish that they would get their stuff straight, get it together. Just because you're going to be playing a European-ish sport doesn't mean you have to do this kind of naming convention. Go back and look to the teams that have established themselves well and follow their leads. The Galaxy, the Red Bulls, all that sort of stuff. They're out there and they're remembered because they have names. Go choose a name. And that's my rant for today, ladies and gentlemen. Next time, who knows what I'll come up with. But until then, go watch the minor league sports.